Pirates weren't just skilled at finding treasure, they were survivalists, engineers and repairmen in ways few today would ever imagine. In an age where a cracked smartphone screen sends people racing to customer service, these men were out in the middle of the ocean. Water isn't supposed to be in the ship, and yet there it is, licking at your boots. Every pirate crew kept it ready. Oakum expanded when wet, sealing gaps and holes like magic. The tar made it waterproof, sticky, and disgusting. Yet it saved lives, turning potential shipwrecks into survivable wounds. You stuffed it in, hammered it down, smeared more tar over it, and prayed it would hold. And in that moment, priorities shift. The gold doesn't matter. The rum doesn't matter. The silk shirts you looted last week. The tar they used was in tea. Just any tar. It was pine sap boiled down until it resembled sticky black sludge. Called it black gold. It didn't shine, but it stuck. Bread was also used. Yes, bread. And it cracked often. 1 out of every 4 ships in the golden age of piracy suffered major mass damage during long journeys. When it snapped, it wasn't a clean break, it was chaos. Timber crashing, rigging falling, men screaming, replacing it. Almost impossible. And sails shredded easily in storms, in battles, even just over time. Pirates carried sailing needles the size of daggers and waxed twine thick as cords. Mending sails was hard labor. The leather palms they wore to push the needles through the canvas were more like armor. One ship carried 7,000 square feet of sail. That's 3 tennis courts worth of material, each square inch vulnerable to the wind's fury. Spare masts were rare. They took up space that was better used for loot and liquor. Pirates discovered that it swelled when wet and plugged small leaks surprisingly well. You can only imagine the first guy who panicked and threw a sandwich into a leak. And it worked. If you had iron hoops, you hammered them around the splice. Heat shrank the rope tighter, creating tension strong enough to hold. Hopefully. One Spanish galleon took 3 days, 1,000 feet of rope, and near miraculous coordination to repair a mast mid-voyage. When they finally arrived at port, the crew got so drunk in celebration, they couldn't climb the repaired mast for 2 days. They're being shoved into cannonball holes to stop the flood. You couldn't steer. You couldn't run. You just prayed the enemy missed while you hammered away, fixing your ride before the ocean claimed it. It was nerve-wracking, adrenaline pumping, and life-saving. But the hull wasn't the only fragile part of a pirate's floating home. One pirate famously sacrificed his captain's favorite embroidered shirt to plug a breach better, to lose fabric than the whole crew. Patching their home's giant wooden ships, using whatever scraps they could steal, salvage, or rip apart from their own belongings. Imagine being in the middle of a plunder-filled sea, adrenaline still pumping from last night's raid, maybe a little hungover, when suddenly, the morning silence is shattered. A thunderous explosion tears through your ship. British Navy cannons have found their mark. The ship lurches as splinters fly, and suddenly the ocean is rising through the floorboards. But shirts only worked for small holes. For real damage, pirates turned to oakum tar-soaked rope fibers. Sometimes, it wasn't enough. When water still poured through the cracks, pirates went underwater literally. They wrapped sails in tar and animal fat, then dragged them beneath the ship. It was called futhering, a nightmare maneuver that required diving under a leaking, often still moving vessel, and trying to line up a sticky, stinking sheet against a jagged wooden hole. It was like applying a band-aid to the belly of a whale in a storm. And those were the below deck holes. Above the waterline, it was hammer and nail time. Pirates would slap planks over holes mid-battle, one hand gripping wood, the other swinging a hammer as bullets whistled past their ears. These repairs didn't just take creativity, they took guts. While trying to patch a ship, you were dead weight. The mast. Oh, the mast. That towering pole that held your sails and guided your path was also your worst nightmare when it cracked. So what did they do? They repaired it. Splicing was the technique, lining up the broken pieces like a wooden bone and wrapping them with endless layers of rope. But even a repaired mast was useless if your sails were shredded. Sometimes they'd tar the thread to make it more durable. Messy work, leaving you stained black from fingertips to elbows. That massive wooden paddle at the stern. Without it, your ship turned into a drunk elephant with no sense of direction. Steering was gone. You might as well spin a wheel and hope for the best. When rudders came loose, Pirates pounded them back in with wooden pegs, hanging off the back of the ship like insane carpenters daring the sea to swallow them. And if a sail was beyond saving, it got recycled into hammocks, bags, or even clothing. One crew famously had hammocks made from their old mainsail. They quite literally slept in their work. Replacing an entire sail was an ordeal, enfolding giant fabric monsters in the middle of the sea, while angry birds dove and pecked. Thinking their territory was under attack, years of salt, grime, and God knows what else made it ideal. On a pirate ship, it'd be used to waterproof the hull. One Spanish galleon used the equivalent of 50 pigs worth of fat in a single repair. And applying it, that was the job for the newest guy. Welcome aboard. Here's a boiling bucket of pitch. Try not to die. Pirates smeared hot pitch over the oakum, thick as melted chocolate but smelling like a chemical accident. It clung to everything: hair, skin, clothes. Some swore their grandkids were born with tar stains. When damage was too severe, pirates had to careen. And yes, sometimes pirates resorted to stolen bed sheets from captured ships. Every leak plugged, every sail stitched, every mast spliced was a battle won. These floating outlaws were engineers, artists, and maniacs with hammers. They worked with sweat, blood, and tarned. They kept their ships alive long enough to raid, escape, and vanish into legend. You haven't seen humiliation until you've watched a fearsome pirate ship flying floral linen. Shipworm stinny, wood-eating monsters could hollow a hull like termites on caffeine. After scraping came inspections. Planks replaced, tar reapplied. The entire ship got a bath of pitch, tallow, and sulfur, a chemical stench, strong enough to chase away sharks. The tar-stained hands became a badge of honor, at least a sign your ship might stay afloat another month. While all this was happening, the rudder could fail too. Exposed the hull, perfect for scraping, repairing, and retooring. It also made you a perfect target. More than one pirate lost their ship during careening when the enemy spotted them beached and helpless. The worst: open, exposed, and deadly. When British sails appeared on the horizon during one careening, Bartholomew Roberts lost his entire ship. There was no time to refloat, no time to escape. But when the rudder snapped, that was worse. Enter the jury rudder, a makeshift steering device made from planks and miles of rope. It took a team of pirates to work, pulling like rowers on a cursed Roman galley. Coordination was key, so was math. No scuba gear, no goggles, just lungs full of hope and the salty taste of terror. Ropes zigzagged across the deck, turning navigation into a death-defying obstacle course. On average, they took in 200 gallons of water per day. Every day. Which meant every spare moment was spent bailing water. Plugging one leak meant another would appear. It was like trying to hold back a flood with your hands. One wrong move and you could trip a critical line, sending the ship lurching in the wrong direction. Angles had to be just right, or your ship would spin in endless circles. One crew built their temporary rudder from dining tables. 2 weeks they ate on crates, steering their way to port using furniture they'd rather have been eating on. To attach these temporary contraptions, some unlucky pirate had to dive under the ship with a rope in his mouth. All of this while water kept leaking in. Because no matter how well you patched things, pirate ships leaked. It was just a fact of life, like storms and scurvy. So they caulked, not with high-end sealants, but with oakum tar-soaked rope fibers jammed into cracks. The older the rope, the better. Animal fat was added too. Pirates saved grease from meals for weeks. That bacon you had yesterday? Ships needed constant caulking, especially in the tropics where heat warped wood. Smart crews checked it every few weeks. But sometimes, even that wasn't enough. Careening meant intentionally beaching your ship at high tide, so it would lean over when the water receded. The work was brutal. Under the blazing sun, the crew scraped off tons of barnacles, seaweed, and shipworms. Picking the right beach mattered. Pirates ranked them. The best had deep water near shore, trees for cover, and fresh water nearby. And yet they did it. Again and again. Pirates didn't just sail the seas, they fought them. It wasn't just luck, it was sheer ingenious, salt-crusted survival.